This is William del Pilar, and welcome to Fired Up, your source for Thursday night conservative talk. And we have got a show for you tonight. Yes, we are going to talk about the Epstein dump, I guess you could say. In fact, you can look at Epstein in every which way with that word. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, are the Democrats facing backlash that they never saw coming? Has Jasmine Crockett been exposed for the buffoon she is? And I'm being polite. Then we're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Mama and Papa are getting a divorce. I don't know. I think of it more as Papa and one of the 10 zillion side mistresses he has in the Republican Party. But the divorce is here, and it's pretty ugly. You know, Marjorie Greene is playing the victim. I gave you my heart, my soul. I gave you it all. I left it on the floor. Trump says, I don't care. We're going to talk about that. Whose side are you on? Give us your comments on that. Then we're going to close it out with the Dick Cheney funeral. What does this funeral reveal to us? What does it show us? What does it tell us? And what does it portend for the future? Or is it much hoopla about nothing? The panel will sit there and talk about that as well. And with that, do not forget, check us out at grumblingsmedia.com. Grumblingsmedia.com. We're going through some ownership changes here. So I've been a little on the downside of the website. We're going to be working on that early next week. But make sure you bookmark it. You can find all our work on there. Make sure you follow us on your favorite platform, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, y Pandora, under the handle Grumblings Media. And with that, let me bring on our guest, or actually not our guest, my fellow panelists. We're going to start with the G-Man. G, how you doing in the back cave there?
Doing well, and it looks like we're on a race to see how quickly we can grow our beards out.
I actually trim mine every few days. I like this little thin look. If I could, I'd find a razor that could take me back to the 1980s and the Don Johnson Miami Vice look. But I haven't found a razor that gets that close. Yeah, but let's find out. Maybe the beautiful Miss Annette Ross could tell us what razor to use. Annette, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, let's get, there's so much happening. I've been working literally 2 jobs here, so I picked out what I thought was some of the more popular topics. But what's your take on the news cycle here? Gee, is there anything that's not in our notes that caught your interest?
Outside of what we're going to talk about, no, I mean, these are the main topics, so I think you picked some good ones.
Yeah, what about you, Annette?
I mean, I think it's actually really interesting to think about what's happening with the Republican Party and Nick Fuentes, and people have been talking a little bit about how he's catching a lot of certain right-wing conservative young men listening to him, and his following is growing. And I actually think that's a very interesting development, I would say, in the conservative movement.
It's a massive story, but it's a very, I want to do it right. It's been on my radar for 2 weeks because there's so many layers of it.
There are.
He's fucking an anti-Semite. Megyn Kelly says, I've known Tucker for 20 years. Well, people can change, Megyn. Megyn Kelly's jumped into the fray. I love Megyn Kelly, don't get me wrong, but she's like an attention deficit syndrome woman. She's got to be in the middle of everything. It's we are, no, there's nothing about you. It's Charlie. It's Charlie Kirk and it's Tucker. So that kind of irks me when she does that, but I get her point. Mark Levin is part of it. I want, because he's done more for the conservative movement, I think, to keep it alive and to keep it going from the 80s. Charlie was today's it guy because he got the youth vote, something we always struggled to get. Nick Fuentes.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, Tucker, you can sit there and platform him. Yeah, Candace, you can sit there and platform him, but I can disagree with you. I would never platform him.
I guess the question I have for you is, then the question I'm looking at as someone who's conservative is, what are people interested in? Why is his following growing? What are they?
Well, I talked about that, and that's why I wanted to talk. I wanted to pull out some of the quotes from Thomas Sowell that he talked about. This is just what's happening to white America right now is the same thing that took 100 years to happen to Black America. Eventually, they said, enough. We are not second-class citizens. We are equal Americans. And that, culminated with the Civil Rights Act. With social media, with the way the world is so disconnected, it hasn't taken, and it started in the 90s. With the demonization of white America. I remember having a conversation about this as I was getting ready to leave the military, and my friends tend to be white, Latino, and Black in the military. They're a mix. And we talked about this. And the Blacks denied it, the Latinos were indifferent, and the whites said, yeah, they're starting to demonize this in the 90s. And it exponentially grew. And as Thomas Sowell said, hate begets hate. And what you're seeing is what he said come true. When the outliers start to speak, those with common sense won't stop them, because their anger has festered and festered and festered, and they'll look the other way. Look, I'm sorry. Malcolm X was not a good dude. He was a racist. He said, but intermixed with that, he said a lot of truths.
I think he did some good things too, in my opinion.
That's what people are saying about Nick Fuentes. And I disagree with both. Does the good outweigh the bad? Does the good outweigh the hate?
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Everybody judges differently. For me, it's all the same. Malcolm X, David Dukes, Nick Fuentes. I would not platform them because part of their platform is hatred towards another color, towards another race. Now, that hatred may be legitimized in people's mind because of the hate they've had to deal with whites today being, they were saying whites have a gene in them that makes them racist. They're telling young kids in elementary schools, you're the problem. You have this gene. Blacks and Latinos are now seeking their own safe spaces in colleges, which does nothing but breed more racism. Because when one race or culture it's only them, they look at the other side's negatively. That's not me. That's actual social fact. So there's all kinds. So the question isn't why is this happening? The true question is, how did we let it happen? How do we stop it? And how do we keep it from happening again? Because people who say, how do we get here? No, you're lying to yourself. You know how we got here. We got here because of the demonization of white Americans since the 1990s. Now, people may disagree when it started. For me, I'll say the 1990s. Most people will say when Obama got elected. And before we move on, since I kind of opened this up into a subtopic here, let G have a couple of words here. Then Annette, you can close it out and we'll get into our main topics.
Yeah, no, I don't have any comments on this because I haven't been following the Nick Fuentes things. Sorry, I can't contribute any more here. I have plenty to contribute on our main topics.
I know.
What about you, Annette?
Paying attention to the news. I would just say that I think it's important, William, to try to understand where people are coming from. I'm always interested in that as a person, just as a human being. When I vehemently disagree, and I think John Fetterman just said something like that to Katie Couric. He had an interview with Katie Couric, and she kept on trying to press him, and she kept on trying to say things to him and make him say that basically Charlie deserved to be shot. And he said, I won't say that. What I'm going to say is we have to have a better way to disagree. But I do think we need to have a better way to understand each other and have a better discourse where we can really disagree and really try to understand where someone else is coming from. And I rest my case on that.
I agree with you, because my whole point is y'all have demonized white Americans. So what did you expect them to act like? There are better ways to look at it. And my better way is, let's look at those Democrat policies that y'all have been championing since the 1960s and their results. Let's look at the promises that y'all aren't going to be in the projects forever. 3-4 generations later, you are. To me, that's how you solve it. Let's look at why y'all suck at education. It's not because you're black or brown. So what's the real problem? Teachers union, So yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But one side doesn't want to have that conversation.
That's true.
And this is the result of it. So, but that's why I haven't put it as one topic, because that's a heavy duty topic, but I want to get into it. All right, let's get into our main topic here, my friends. Jeffrey Epstein. So this week's release of the Epstein Files was meant to create transparency. In fact, it was called the Epstein Files Transparency Act, I think. I'm not sure though. But it didn't just ignite public interest. It's created a full-blown narrative that nobody has captured yet. Right now, the Democrats think they own it, but it's kind of like a boxer, tomato can. They're really lightweights in it, as we're seeing with Jasmine Crockett, getting caught in a blatant lie by claiming all these Republicans were given money by Epstein. And they were a different Epstein. Then you have Hakeem Jeffries, the Brooklyn Barack, as his aides called him, as they solicited Jeffrey Epstein for money. So you have all these missteps. And what we're not finding, actually, is the connection to Trump. They have tried a couple of things. The email, this wasn't part of the dump. This was part of last week's dump. The email where Virginia Giuffre, she was redacted, and she's already come out and said that no, Trump didn't have anything to do with it. Then there's the Thanksgiving dinner 2017. Trump spent Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump was president at the time with the press corps tailing him every single day, literally. So they've been caught in it. But it's also created a civil war, people, between Republicans, because MAGA is the reason all this is happening. All these Democrats, all these victims, none of them saw any light in Obama's regime and in Joe Biden's regime. So it's not like the Republicans are coming out of this looking good. Gee, your initial thoughts on all this?
No, I think they're reaching, obviously, and I'm talking about the Democrats. They're reaching because they had, what was it, 7 of their members of the Senate cave in and reopen the government, and the rest of the Democratic establishment said, don't cave in. And once that happened, they said, okay, we need to find a different news cycle to get off the fact that we quote unquote lost this round of fighting. So they get onto the Epstein thing, which is something that's been pushed by the MAGA, right? And William, you brought that up several times. It's the MAGA side that's been saying, let's release the files. Now, you look at Trump and he's resisted this. And you have to ask yourself why. Why has Trump resisted it? The Democrats, they're more of the conspiratorial thinkers. They'll say, okay, well, because he must be in it. But I don't believe that. I don't think any of us believe that here, because we know if he was involved with these underage women, then Biden would have known that, and he would have basically tanked Trump's candidacy. But he didn't. So we all know that Trump's not really involved. But Trump did a self-inflicted wound by saying, okay, well, we're not going to release it. And I go back to the question, why did he do that? Because I think Trump's stubborn. He's always been stubborn. It doesn't matter who it is, but he answers to nobody, not even his base. His base will say, release the Epstein files. He'll say, no, I don't want to release them. I think, 1, he's stubborn, but 2, I think there is some stuff that will embarrass Trump, not in anything illegal, but just we've seen Epstein saying, Trump is evil. I don't like this guy. Well, maybe Trump doesn't like that reputation to come out, so he's been trying to block it. But in the end, that will help him. I mean, if Epstein said, hey, the G-Man is such a great guy, he comes here all the time, I'd be like, don't say anything like that. But if he goes, man, that guy sucks, I never want him here, perfect. You're a scumbag
exactly.
anyways, right? And
Exactly.
and here's the thing. I saw this on I think it was Megyn Kelly's show a couple days ago. When you're having dinner with someone and you find out that, hey, they did some corporate fraud and then they served their time, and you're having dinner with them and they tell you this, you go, okay, well, I'm glad you learned your lesson. What's for dessert, right?
Right.
But if you're sitting across the table with someone and they go, oh yeah, I used to sleep with 11-year-olds, you're not sticking around to finish your meal. You're just like, hey, thanks for inviting me. I'm out of here. Just because I'm a nice guy, I'll pay for your dinner too, but I don't want to hang out with you anymore, right? So that's the
Right.
kind of guy Epstein is. If he hates you, great. And Trump should play to that and go, look, this guy never liked me when I found out what he was doing, right? And I think
Right.
Trump did
Right.
find out before Epstein was arrested. So
I agree.
that's my initial thought. I know I probably went into way more thoughts than my initial one, but
We
I was
get it. You're running for office. We get it. You got to get the practice in.
yeah.
All right, Annette, why do you think Trump abruptly supported this? This turnaround. I mean, like at first he's like, we can't, and his reasoning was like, there's innocent names in there. But last week, that big, long, drawn out, True Social, it's like, let the dogs out. In essence, or to just do a complete dump. What are your thoughts on that?
I was really thinking was that maybe he was just feeling that people were losing a lot of faith with the institutions. I'm not sure, and I agree with G totally. Like they already could have really made Trump look bad during the election. There was some smoking gun there, and all roads led to Trump, and that would have been the perfect time. But I think right now what's happening is, with what information abhors a vacuum. I mean, it's just being filled with all kinds of, conspiracy theories. And I think people lose faith in institutions when that kind of thing happens. And I mean, I think that we're at an all-time low for faith in institutions anyway, but I sort of think maybe he's trying to bolster that up a little bit and say, we're not hiding anything. There is some transparency here, but it could be that it's a little late.
Yeah, that's true. I personally think that Trump sees he's losing the narrative battle here, and he needs to take control of it. Combine that, this is a bad time for Trump. The elections went south. He did not help anything Trump's an idiot at times by saying last week, well, I wasn't on the ticket. Well, you didn't help anybody on the ticket either. His economy is in the middle silent part where they have to wait to see what's happening and the numbers aren't good. And then they put the excuse on him. Well, we lost because you're all overseas there, you dumbass. And which to me is not true. So, and then the Epstein was trickling out. And here's the reason I think he did it. Everybody says the mainstream media is dead. The mainstream media is dead. It's not dead. It does not have the influence. But if it was dead, then why did 60% of America think the shutdown was the Republicans' fault? There are whether it's the Ruthless podcast, whether it's Megyn Kelly, Patrick Bet-David, they're wrong on this. The mainstream media is not dead. And they won the shutdown war because 60% of Americans thought it was still the Republicans' fault. Now, granted, if the mainstream media was where it was 20 years ago, 98% would have thought the Republicans. So we are making headway. But the point is we're also lying to ourselves. And I think this was, I don't want to say a desperate move, because as G said, it's a no-brainer. Should have done it long ago. But we are here today because of Pam Bondi. And I'm not blaming Pam Bondi at this point. And what I'm saying, that's when it started. She overpromised, you know? It's like a man overpromising to a woman. And one day he's got to share the goods. So she overpromised. But fast forward, it just got worse and worse and worse, including the Civil War that includes Marjorie Taylor Smith. So I think Trump said, screw everybody who's in here. That the CIA, NIS, Mossad, that everybody's come here and said, Mr. President, we've got to protect these people. He's like, screw y'all and let the dogs out. And I think right now it's kind of helped him.
Wait, hold on, guys. I totally think that he was working for the Mossad. You don't?
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the CIA, the FBI, Mossad, the billionaires, they all came to him and said, you can't release this because there are innocent people's names in there and we don't want to destroy their careers. And I think now Trump's like, I'm going to save myself because I'm starting to lose his narrative. So let all the files out and everybody be damned, you know? So that's what I think happened here.
William, I got a quick question. One more quick question for you. I think it looks bad because he's had enough time now. No one believes now that there wasn't enough time to, redact more things or doctor some things up, or you know what I'm saying? It seems like it's not as credible at this point.
I don't think that's relevant only because it's never been credible. Because like I said, the Epstein has jumped the shark and it's become more of a conspiracy. We're never going to learn the truth. So he could put out a completely all white 3,000 pieces of paper, no redactions, and somebody's going to disagree with it. They're going to say, no, they're still hiding something. They're still hiding. Okay. So what about the hypocrisy with the media, G? George Stephanopoulos, Katie Curran, the Dalai Lama. They all met with Jeffrey Epstein. I just can't picture the Dalai Lama. Come here, girl. We're going to pray together. I'm sorry, meditate together. Yes, I make fun of our religions. But what are your thoughts? These are people who met with Epstein, Stephanopoulos, and Curran after the 2008 shenanigans of him being found guilty and then working out a plea agreement. Nothing on these people.
No, because they're nobody with power, right? I mean, they got some media power or whatnot, and they're partisan hacks or whatnot. Look, there's no gain in taking them out. You take out George Stephanopoulos, and then they're just going to put someone else, David Muir, in his place, and he's just as left wing. I mean, Stephanopoulos actually served on a Bill Clinton campaign. I think he was part of his administration for a little while, but that, I mean, it's like whack-a-mole, right? You get rid of this one guy and another one pops up. But if they can get rid of Trump, right? If they can really tarnish him and make him a lame duck well before the end of his term, I mean, there's a lot to be gained there for the Democrats. So I can see why they sit there and go, okay, well, let's, like Annette said, information abhors vacuum. And here's the thing about conspiracy theories, right? Like, if you ever if you ever watched the documentary Loose Change, which is about 9/11 conspiracy theory, they don't actually present facts. What they do is they poke holes in the actual narrative, and then they say, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? But there's no evidence, right? They just ask questions and basically beg the question in your mind, and you go, oh yeah, well maybe it wasn't a plane that went into the Pentagon; it was a missile, a Tomahawk cruise. Right. In this case, it's the same thing. Well, maybe Trump was over there and maybe there are 11-year-old girls. And so, yeah, they're just partisan hacks. I'm surprised they have the audience that they have still. It doesn't bother them. But, look, the late night hosts, they still have all these Democrats watching them. But I think pretty much all the Republicans have stopped watching them. And that's why I think it was Kimmel has had one Republican on in 6, 7, 8 years. And that was
right.
Cheney, I think it was.
No, that's Colbert. And Kimmel's ratings for the audience have come back down to earth. All right. I'm sorry, G. Anything else on that?
No, that's it. Yeah.
So, Senorita Annette, Michael Wolff, it came out that Michael Wolff had like over 100 hours worth of tapes. He's had these like for years. Nothing came out when Trump ran in 2020 or before. And the point being is they're still trying to make something with Michael Wolff. He's making the rounds right now. They're using this dump to try to go after Trump. Am I looking at it wrong? I view it as they're going after Trump. Michael Wolff has nothing, or else he would have come out with something on those tapes. But he keeps trying to tease. I think Michael Wolff is like, I mean, he must be related to Barnum Bailey or whoever said there's a sucker born every minute. You know, whoever said that. But what are your thoughts? Do you think this is just a one track? What I'm asking you in that is, they care about the women, or is this about getting Trump?
Well, isn't that the saddest point of all? Is that amongst all of this, with all of these really powerful people, there were real women that were victimized here. And that always gets like sort of thrown in, like, you know, it's like run over by a train. Like no one really cares at all because now everyone's trying to save themselves. And I would also say, to the point when you were talking about G, to the people who are being hypocritical. Yeah, because they saw he was moving in those circles, Jeffrey Epstein was. And honestly, there's no moral compass when it comes to if you can get a connection or you want to be with someone who is connected. Do you know what I mean? They don't care if they knew he was a slime ball or not. And they probably did. But hey, he knew this person or that person. And that was like, you know, some sort of notch. I mean, that's the sad thing that I feel like even in this decade of my 50s that I'm learning about human beings in power. It's sort of, okay, I'm a slow learner. This is just proving it right now, what a slow learner I actually am. But what is very sad for me is the point you brought up about the victims. They almost get re-victimized in it because they're not even thought of.
You bring up a great point. I destroy Virginia Jeffrey. Gee, can you look it up, or somebody look it up? I thought, is it Jeffrey or Giffrey?
I think it's Giffrey. I think, yeah.
Giffrey. I don't want to. It pains me to go, that woman disqualified herself because she was caught lying multiple times. That woman disqualified herself because she issued a public apology. This woman disqualified herself because she was too dumb to realize you got to stick to the truth and not do what your lawyers tell you when they told you to lie about Alan Dershowitz. Because there's no one who would sit there. There is nobody who disagrees with the fact that something happened to her. But because her own doing, because she was being used by the left, she's now being raked through the mud. But I will sit there and state all of this when I'm debating somebody who wants to use her as a bastion of goodness. I'm like, no, she's not. You know, no, she's not, because this is what happened. So what's happened is all these people have become pawns. That's why I get angry about this, is because we're never going to learn the truth, because this is just human nature. People will use, the Democrats don't care. Thomas Massey doesn't care. He's just a libertarian bleep hole who is looking at using the Epstein to elevate himself and to continue the grift that Justin Amash and Ron Paul, those other libertarians who served in the House, do. They accomplished nothing. And the reason I bring that up is Massey did not. I think there was like one or two posts or something or comments he made about this during the Biden era. So I think this is all about getting Trump. That's it. And they don't care how many innocent people. In fact, the proof here is, remember that big press conference with like 15 victims?
Yeah.
Look, y'all had to think, oh, yeah. I remember. It came and went for two reasons. They didn't even portray themselves as credible. Some of their stories were, it's kind of like Resume. It's the truth, but a little exaggerated, and that didn't play off well. And two, everybody sees it for what it is. It's just a political event. You know, and Massey's desperate. He's going to use this vote because it was him and Marjorie Taylor Greene or Paula Luna. There were a handful of them who initiated this to get their files, because he's losing now in the polls, you know, and I hope he loses. You have to be your own person. You have to stick to your values, but you're also beholden to the party to a degree. I mean, the party helped get you there. You supposedly have similar values. If the party needs you for certain votes, you got to be there for the party. I'm sorry, people who sit there and disagree. If you disagree, then you're supporting Ron Paul. You're supporting Thomas Massey. People who don't do anything for their district. In the big, beautiful bill, Thomas Massey's district got zero. appropriations. All they got was what was passed from the bill that goes national. But on the flip side, Chip Roy is like Thomas Massey with his values, but he also knows you got to negotiate. I'm a Republican. I will go with this, but my district's going to get this, and this. And Chip Roy, it's and this, and this, and this, and this. He's shrewd. He does good for his district. So and the reason I bring up Thomas Massey, because he's a thorn in the Republican side, because he's a liar. He hides behind a philosophical belief system that goes against human nature. But because he has no power and is always on the loser side, he can proclaim to be purer than Jesus. And his grift and his base, they lap it up like a dog who hasn't had water for a month. So, I mean, am I wrong to look at Thomas Massey that way? I don't want to digress, but G, your thoughts. I mean, if I'm wrong, you can feel free to disagree.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know enough about that individual congressman, but I do know that he's a constitutionalist, right? And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, because you could, like, if I were him, I could also think, okay, well, I don't want to be that guy to stuff this bill full of pork just to get my district whatever it wants. I want to be fiscally responsible and try to, get out of this deficit spending that we've been in now for 40 years, right? So I could see him thinking that. I don't know enough about him to know which way he goes, but if he didn't get anything for his district, there's one of two reasons. One, he doesn't have enough political clout, or two, maybe he doesn't believe in pork. So maybe it's both. I mean, who knows?
No, you're right. You're right, but I got to push back. Getting money for your district for, say, Alzheimer's centers, or the help fund grants for certain charities that do good. Right. That's not pork. What is pork is when I was 17, 18 years old and we're driving down the freeway and I made a comment to my friend. I go, man, those walls look so cool. He goes, do you know how some of those walls got, on the freeway, you see all those sound things? Yep. You know, some of those people get those. Some of them, he goes, are right in front of country clubs, rich areas. It's called pork. He goes, they can pay for it themselves or because through other means, but they get it through appropriations in Congress. And that's when I first learned about pork, because we were going by a country club when I said it was in the city I live in. We were driving back over the airport. It's just one of those magical moments. I was like, wow. So that's pork, getting money for stuff that you don't need. Or what's pork is getting grants or money for one of your donors for a project, which the company can pay for itself, but it's a payback. So there is a difference. He gets nothing. I'm not talking about pork, G. I'm talking about helping his.
Well, I will say he's been in office since 2000. He won in 2012. Oh, that's a good 13 years now. So the question is, what are you doing over there, right? 12 years, right? So what is he doing over there? And yeah, that's a good question I have. He's not in my state, so I'm not going to follow all 435 congressmen and women out there. But
what are you doing on the show then?
But that just raised alarm bells going, what is he doing for his district? But they're happy with him. I mean, he's been there for 6 terms now.
Are they happy with him? Do you think the people in a lot of these Democrat districts here in California are actually happy? If they see, the reason I bring that up, and that will go to you, I bring that up is because most people don't know what's happening in their district. I don't know what half the stuff that ICE is voting for our district. I have to look it up, or I hear about it. That's difficult stuff. There's thousands and thousands of bills a year that get passed that directly impact us or don't impact us. They're only telling us the good stuff. They won't tell us the vote they voted here that's going to hurt our district. So most people don't know because they don't care, or they're too busy with their lives. So when people say, well, they must be happy with them, not really. They just aren't aware. Because if we were truly aware, we would not have 30-year congressmen. That would be 6-year term. Man, you've been here 6 years. Damn, you've been here a long time, SA. Instead you get ISA for 30 some odd years, And I'm not saying ISA is a bad dude, but he's done a lot of bad stuff for this district. I mean, let me take that back. He's done a lot of stuff that hasn't helped this district too, Annette, your thoughts?
Well, I have to just divert a little bit, because you made an interesting point early on about how Christianity is being used by a lot of these politicians. And it reminded me of a line in a Woody Allen movie, and one of my favorite Woody Allen movies. And the character said, if Jesus Christ ever came back to earth and saw what was happening in his name, he'd never stop throwing up. And that's how I feel. I feel and I know that's a very harsh thing to say, but I feel like the way Christianity is being abused by our leaders is sort of like, I have the righteous indignation, when Jesus came into the temple and it said, don't make, and he's throwing the table saying, don't make the house of God a marketplace. I mean, it's being marketed right now in a way that I don't think is truly godly.
Yeah, I just got in an argument with the Catholic again. Yeah, I know. Who talked to me about, well, I'm a good Christian. And I go, I'm a good Christian too. And I say, you're a bad Christian. So you're a bad Christian. My point is, anybody can throw out the I'm a good Christian and imply you're not. And I'm like, when you do that, you lose the argument. All right. So let's jump into some of the Democrat. And what I call the Democrat collusion and the Plaskett bombshell. You guys aware who Stacey Plaskett is?
Yeah.
Stacey Plaskett represents a U.S. Virgin Territory, I believe, if I'm correct. She doesn't even get an official vote, I don't think, in certain cases, if not most. She travels once a week to come vote and support the Democrat Party. Well, she was actually being texted by Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing when she was grilling Michael Cohen, trying to get dirt on Trump. Now, here's the issue. She went on CNN and said, well, he happened to get my number. Lie number one. Those are very protected numbers. They're cell numbers because they don't want just any Joe to have it. The people who have it, they're staff members, other politicians, and who else? Rich donors.
Yeah.
So she says, I got to represent my constituents. Got to represent them. Well, that's nice and dandy, and you're right. But gee, have you ever heard of somebody using that defense? Got to represent my constituents when it's a sex offender. This happened in 2008, the original sex offender meeting. So politicians run from those people. Not making issues. They just don't act, they delete. So I think this is a massively bad look. And this is what I call the backlash. Your thoughts on this,
Yeah.
Stacey?
I mean, let's be clear here. Stacey Plaskett is a Democrat. And I believe at one point she was a Republican, but she turned at some point, and I believe it was before this time. But yeah, obviously she was out to get Trump. She wants to impeach him, and maybe they thought they could remove him, but that would have been a very, very hard thing to do. To be texting with Epstein, I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Like, how many hundreds of people can you be talking to during the impeachment trial, and you're talking to him? That just doesn't make any sense to me. That is Epstein looking to get back at Trump.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. Epstein wanted to get Trump. Annette, your thought. Actually, Annette, before we get your thoughts, let us play the video here of Miss Plaskett on CNN. Oops, after the fact.
But like many
Did you guys hear that?
constituents, individuals get your phone number. They text you about issues. They speak with you. I have spoken with him about issues that are relevant, things that are going on in the Virgin Islands and elsewhere around the country.
Right. But on that day that we're talking about, you initiated the text exchange at 7:55 in the morning. So why were you even texting with Epstein at the time? He was a known sex offender then.
Sure. I explain to people I've been a prosecutor for many years. And there are a lot of people who have information that are not your friends that you use to get information to get at the truth.
She was reaching deep. So that was, I wanted to show that because Democrats have no shame. Well, politicians don't to defend Democrats. No shame. She knew she was busted. She knows she has no excuse, but she's got this. Annette, I talked about the red, white, and blue and how we cover entertainment and culture.
Yes.
She should have won an Oscar for that performance right there.
Wait, was she trying to trap him?
What's that? Trump. She was
That's what I
texting
mean.
Epstein to get information to trap Trump.
Right. But earlier, she said she sometimes talked to Epstein about issues that were happening.
Because he lived down there. She was saying he's his representative. That's what I'm saying. She was just flat out lying. I got issues. Do you see me? Daryl, how you doing, bro? Jim, how you doing? Can I come on in for some coffee? Got to talk to you about something.
Let's remember what Trump was impeached for the first time around. He was impeached for quid pro quo with the Ukrainian president. What does Jeffrey Epstein have anything to do with that? Does he have any knowledge? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make
You're
any
just trying to throw anything against the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's stick with you. Larry Summers, big Harvard, big wig, big government guy, policy maker, Turns out the guy, this is what I predicted. I've told you guys plenty of times. I walked out into my office once some years ago. My employees. These are young men in their late 20s. And I looked at them and was like, you guys are clueless. You have no clue how to talk to women. Well, it turns out it wasn't just that generation, but Larry Summers, she was mean to me, Jeff. She was mean to me. What do I do next? Busted. To the audience, Larry Summers was Jeffrey Epstein and Lander's dating advice. Your thoughts on Larry Summers there? This is part of the backlash. If you guys notice the donkey with the cannon, this is part of the backlash. This is why I think Trump didn't do this out of brilliance. He did this out of, I'm losing the narrative here. And I think he's gotten the narrative back. Your thoughts on Larry Summers here?
Okay, I think I said last week that, I mean, some of the problems that I had with what was happening with this whole Epstein case was that I think it had sort of far-reaching tentacles. I think it was really big. I mean, these are powerful people, right? I'm sure a lot of people are feeling a little scared right now. But yeah, I think of that as just, when I read about that, I was like, oh, this is so pathetic and sad. I mean, what do you even say to something like that? What a disgrace. It's disgraceful for him, in my opinion, right? It's just terrible. A terrible look.
It's terrible. I look at it, you're a sad, pathetic man.
It is
You're
pathetic.
a power man. You don't have to sit there and you hold the power. There's 10 zillion girls that would have dropped to their knees, not metaphorically for you. I had to catch myself, but what I mean by that is he could have had any woman he wanted because that's what power does. But he's so inept as a man.
As a man,
He
yeah.
didn't know what to do. Plaskett, Summers. Gee, your thought on Summers?
I mean, I just think that he being in there is, I mean, that just says a lot, right? So I look forward to just seeing these files released and see exactly what he had to do with Epstein and how many times he traveled to the island. That, I mean, that's going to be interesting. Look, in the end,
Go ahead.
communicating with Epstein or being friends with him or because he's throwing money around, right? That's not a crime in and of itself. And let's be clear, a lot of these people didn't know what he was doing, right? It's the ones that, one, either knew what he was doing and didn't say anything, or two, actually went to the island to partake, right? Those are the ones that we want to know. And there's a difference between Epstein's files and the Epstein client list. And the client list is what we want to know. Did they go to the island? Did they partake? Did they know, right? And there could be a lot of people on that list that have no idea what happened and only found out after Epstein was basically, busted for it. But that list could just be his black book, right? Okay, well, I need stuff from this guy, so I'm going to, throw some money his way. And then when the time comes, I need something in return, I'm going to get that.
I gotta ask you guys something. I really do, because you're men and I'm a woman. Is there something I don't understand about this whole Epstein case? Honestly, are no men having sex? Are men really that low? I mean, are they that pathetic in general? I just find it so hard to believe that they would fall for some of this stuff.
Men are visual. What happens to women? They get old. It's sad but true. Men are visual. You throw a young woman up there, they want that woman, And, hold on. Women are emotional. They're not, a woman's not going to look at Larry Summers as, man, look at that hot thing. Oh, yeah, come on, man. They're looking at him. That's a man of power and wealth. So you have different attractions. Then, that's what it boils down to. That's why do you think 50% divorce? Men looking at other women. Now, in defense of men, over the last couple of generations, women have been doing the same thing too. But yeah, Larry Summers is just an idiot. And let's be honest. No, if this file had come out or had not come out, the left would still look at Larry Summers as his grand old ice sage. Now they look at him as, dude, you can't even talk to a girl.
Inept, like you said. I'm just saying, where are the honorable men? I believe they're still out there.
Oh, you're married to one, aren't you?
I think so.
There you go.
Here's the other part of it. Like, let's say Larry Summers went down there and partook of this, right? You still don't know what these. I mean, obviously the really young ones will look really young, but some of them can look 20, right? And he doesn't know any different, right? But that doesn't excuse his crime. He's still guilty. But he might go down there and he's just thinking, oh, they're interested in me, right? So and then he goes through with it. So, there's going to be a lot that comes out where it's like, okay, they're just going to say, I didn't know. And that's not a defense. But I can see a lot of them saying, I didn't know.
Defense.
I thought she was 20, right?
All right, let's keep moving on here because we're running out of time here. I want to cover MTG real quick, but we've got to talk about this. The Jeffries letter, I just wanted to get your thought. First of all, Hakeem Jeffries is a weak, inept man. And To Black America, there are a lot of strong Black men and women out there. Hakeem Jeffries played the party line and he moved up quickly. He's a yes man. He has been exposed since Trump took office for not being qualified for the job. I'd love to see strong minorities in there. You got to do better than Hakeem. He is in the crosshairs of the squad, of those socialists, because they see him as a weak man. And but this is how the Democrat Party portrayed him early on. This just cracks me up. We are thrilled to announce that we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, one of the rising stars in the New York congressional delegations, sometimes referred to as Brooklyn's Barack. Guys, I don't want to get down and dirty on this, but I just got to get your thoughts on how Hakeem has handled himself this week with this, especially the Stacey Plaskett. I don't know if you guys had time. He's been like a deer in headlights, and then he's getting mad. He's lashing out a bit. I just think he's weak. I think his days are numbered, and this is part of the backlash. This is going to, I think, end his reign as House leader for, or minority leader for Democrats.
Yeah. So let's think about this. When you're actually put in a position of power and you're responsible now for representing the party, you're going to come across a lot more dignified, a lot more reasonable and thoughtful. But there's a civil war in the Democratic Party where he's trying not to become a socialist. And all these people who are bombastic bomb throwers like the Squad and all that, they're socialists. I mean, you're not going to win elections by calling yourself communist, so they don't call themselves communists, but some of them are, like Mamdani. And look, I know I look like him, but I'm not Mamdani. Just wanted to make that clear for the viewers. So he's stuck in a spot where he's got to be dignified and thoughtful and shut these people out who are bombastic, but they look strong because they are bombastic. So in the end, what he should do is really put his foot down and just come closer to the middle and just say, look, we are Americans, and this is the way we need to conduct ourselves. And this is the platform of the Democrat Party, because arguably he's the strongest voice in the Democrat Party alongside Schumer. And they need to say, look, we're Americans and we're not radically left. We're not red in terms of Soviet red. We're not socialists. But then again, maybe he's not doing that because maybe they really are. And he's saying, you guys are exposing too much.
I think it's more the deer in the headlights. Let's keep moving. Annette, I want to get your comments on this, the dog that hasn't barked. And this one here, this has not made many, you guys may not have seen this video, but I want to show you the letter first.
Okay.
So this is a letter that came out. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. So they were trying to tie. See, he was spending time with these young girls. They had no clue what it meant, but they were trying to tie him into. Well, one of the authors of a book called The Spider, Barry Levine, and there's 10 zillion Barry Levines out there, but this one's an author. How do I know that? When I did my research, Barry Levine. But he came out and he said this about what this actually meant. And it's pretty fascinating. Let me show you this video now, and then that will get your response. Oops, let me find it. Let me get to it. Here we go. This was on CNN.
An email. We'll put on that 2011 email. We'll put it up on the screen, and I will ask you, the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. What do you think he's referring to?
Well, I think Jeffrey Epstein is referring to the fact that he believes that Donald Trump talked to Michael Ryder, who was the Palm Beach police chief in 2004, and began the first investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. I suspect that Jeffrey Epstein...
Okay, to the audience, what he's saying is Trump was working with the police to out Jeffrey Epstein. That's what he's saying there, is what that email refers to. You know, Trump barking. He's barking to the authorities about Epstein.
Epstein, in his conversation or email with Maxwell, was saying he was 75% there, believing that Trump might have been the whistleblower at the time. Again, you have to remember that particular year, the two men had a falling out, not only over the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell was taking young women from his spa at Mar-a-Lago for Jeffrey Epstein, but they also had a nasty real estate deal that both men were trying to get. So there was bad blood between the two of them.
Okay, so it's a combination then of the Trump being the dog who didn't bark and that additional line on that email. We'll put it back on the screen. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there, meaning he's 75% there to believing that Trump is an informant against him?
That is what I believe based on my research of years of the Jeffrey Epstein story.
Okay, but
You have to
Barry,
remember that the House Speaker at one point,
Just my quick interlude scene in. But tell me the truth.
Barry, if Donald Trump were an informant, if Donald Trump dropped the dime on Jeffrey Epstein, why wouldn't he today in this climate be shouting it from the mountaintops? I'm the one who put him away.
that's a question that only the president can answer. And again, the Palm Beach police have never said that Donald Trump was an informant. However, not too long ago, the House Speaker, said, Mike Johnson, said that Donald Trump was an informant on this particular case. So it is rather confusing.
Annette, before you give me your thoughts, my final comment to feed you for your response is, this is why I say it's jump the shark. Even if this was true, there's no way to confirm it. And even if Trump came out and said it, the naysayers would be, no, he's still a pedophile, he's still this, he's still that. Had either of you guys seen this video?
No.
So it's an exclusive from me to you guys. Your thoughts?
It's exactly what you said. I'm looking at that email thinking it said G vacation. I thought that was you, G. No, just joking.
I worked at Epstein Island.
And I'm thinking to myself, how do I even know that this document is real? I mean, it's sort of like you can't win. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't win. You can't, you know what?
But Annette, you're proving my point. You're frustrated right there because you're like, I don't know. That's my host point of saying it's jump the shark. Now, do you understand what I say? It's become a JFK conspiracy. Instead of looking at the victims, we're using them as weapons. Each side, I admit, I have used Jeffrey Guffrey not as a weapon, but she put herself in that position.
Yeah.
Where instead, nobody's united. It's what can I get for myself here? All right.
At the expense of the people, the young girls who really were harmed in all of this. They're just expendable at this point. Isn't that sad?
Yes, it's very sad. It's human nature. People are out for themselves. What can I get out of this? That's natural as long as you walk that fine line and don't cross over it, like Clint Eastwood did in that one movie. Every movie. Make my day. All right, final topic. We're way over, and then we'll spend about 10 minutes on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then I'll get individual comments on Cheney. But I just have to show this because I loathe her because she lies to Black Americans. She pretends to be one of them, but she's so detached from them, and she's a tyrant to her own staff, and she needs to be exposed for what she is because her district needs better representation, which they'll get because it's been gerrymandered, down in Texas. And that's Miss Jasmine Crockett. But here's the reason I loathe her. She knows she's lying in this segment when she was on not the Senate floor, but the House floor. Well, let me just show you. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this one.
Folks who
you guys hear that?
Took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain, Palin, Rick Lazio. I just want to be clear. If this is the standard that we're going to make, just know we're going to expose it all. And just know that the FEC filings, they are available for everybody to review. This is absolutely ridiculous.
And that's the other reason I get angry, because she doesn't talk like that. Y'all know she throws in a heavy Black accent from the projects, That's not how she talks in real life. So to me, she's also demeaning a whole culture by doing that, But we're not done. We're not done here. So this is two videos, the second one here. This is her on CNN trying to defend her lie.
That I was clear that it was a Jeffrey Epstein, but I never said that it was specifically that Jeffrey Epstein.
So she's trying to defend it by saying, I knew it wasn't that Epstein. Well, then why'd you say it? She went through a whole big lie of trying to state that, well, my staff only had 20 minutes to look it up. You know how that is, huh? Now, this is why I know she's lying. Her staff can go through the records in those 20 minutes. And this is what comes up. Now, what do you guys notice about this? Look at the date. What does the date tell you? I didn't know dead men couldn't donate. Jeffrey Epstein was already dead in 2020. What year did he die? 2018? 2017?
2019, I believe.
He was dead. And she did this to smear people purposely, and she knew that because she said this on the House floor, she was protected legally. Because if she had not said this in the House floor, everyone could have sued her to poverty. This is why I loathe her. She's willing to lie to promote her agenda. And her agenda is one of hatred, divisiveness, racism, tribalism, everything that we're trying to avoid. She represents everything she accuses us of, she actually does. Annette, your thoughts on the, gotta call it what it is. She's charismatic, on the charismatic Miss.
Well, people like her terrify me because I hate the tribalism and I hate the divisiveness. And I think she is what you said earlier, about hatred and how you started the show talking about hatred and how that begets hatred. So I think that's a part of her messaging. And I also think, isn't there some psychological term like the bigger the lie, the more people believe it? I mean, not everyone's going to look in.
On Marketing 101. This is Grumblings Media Cup, the best cup in the world.
You can spew lies out there, and if it's to the angry mob and it's what they want to hear, they're just gonna attach to it. You know what I'm saying? It's other people and people of critical thinking who might say, I better check into this. This seems a little bit like something I should look into more deeply. But she's speaking to people who already have the hatred begetting hate, and so she's got an audience for this. And some people don't even care about the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Annette, I was not in the Epstein files. You see JEE, but AEE, the middle E is Edward. That's the middle initial. If you look at that donation list, I'm just joking. I know Annette was not saying that I'm in the Epstein files. But if you look at that donation list, that was Jeffrey B. Epstein. Not only that, but it was Dr. Jeffrey B. Epstein. And he donated a whole $250. I'm sure McCain, Gillen, some of these people are not bending over backwards for a $250 donor. Or taking calls during an impeachment trial. Jeffrey Epstein was donating thousands of dollars, right? So I just think it's insincere about her saying, well, it's not the Jeffrey Epstein, but a Jeffrey Epstein donated. I mean, you can almost say, well, a G donated to a candidate. That name right here is not the initials of the guy who was found dead in his jail cell. So if I donate to you, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
His wife is going to jump all over him. Why'd you let him say that, man?
No, I'm just teasing.
All right. Let's keep moving here. We're at the 1 hour mark. So just a couple of comments, and maybe we'll tape a show because we still got to finish off about the kids from last week, and then we can carry on with this. But real quick, give me your thoughts, Annette, on Mama and Papa divorce with Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Trump.
Just over America first, William. I get it. I mean, first of all, I never liked her. Can I just say that? So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not against everything she says, but just personally, her approach to things and her mouthiness and the way she is as a human being, I find like a bull in a china shop, and I find it very off-putting. And she's just in that way. But putting that aside,
that's a great point. I mean, you hit it on the head in that. That's exactly what she is. She's in a bull in a china shop and has no clue. I'm sorry, but that's a great analogy. Go on.
Thank you, William. Let's mark this day down. No, so there's that one thing. But she's talking about America first, and Tucker's sort of on that trajectory, and that's some other people on that trajectory saying that that's where we need to be focusing our energies, not on other wars and this and that. So I mean, I'm not totally against the idea of America first, but honestly, I think it's all integrated so much. That's my problem with saying that. It's not that I don't. I look at this analogy though, right? I really, before I can go out into the world and feed other people's children, I know that it's my first responsibility to make sure that my children are fed. And so I sort of look at it from that very small, like home base analogy, like the Americans, that we have what we need, that we're being taken care of. And then you extend out from there. But I realize that could be a very, idealistic way of looking at the world.
I know, I agree with you. But here's the pushback. If you're a congressman, yes, your first responsibility is to your district, you moron Massey. If you're a senator, your first responsibility is supposed to be to the state you're representing. If you're the president, your responsibility is to the country, which is both domestic and foreign policy. They are both, like you said, they are both integrated. He can do both. You know, which brings up the point, G, does she think Trump can't do both? I mean, she's looking at it through the description of what Annette said. America first, you got to take care of your own. We all agree with that, but the president's responsibility is to the country, which has ties to the outside world. And I'm sorry, if we don't keep an eye on what China does, Russia. Yeah, Russia. I was going to say Soviet Union. What Russia does and all these other bad actors in my own country, when Noriega was there, and it was a funnel for drugs to come through America, it does involve the president. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was watching some videos on Ronald Reagan the other day, and it was on Instagram. And I just remember that we used to be run by people with class, right? Trump, as much as he's doing for America, he doesn't do it with class. He does it with bombastic, brash style. And that's who MTG is as well. I mean, she's just bombastic and brash. And now we got Gavin Newsom, who, the people are calling him out in the press saying, do you have to be like Trump with your tweeting? Well, I'm just giving Trump a taste of his own medicine. No, you're trying to be like Trump, and
You
he's
sounded
trying to I know. Okay, that's why I never went on the comic circuit ever. So I just look at this and go, look, could MTG have done it a different way with class? Like Ronald Reagan, you go and say, okay, let's talk in private, and we need you to focus a little more on America, or whatever she wants to say to him, but just do it with a little more class and say, let's try to convince the other person rather than have this open air battle, because Trump doesn't take kindly to open air battles. He'll trash you. Remember the whole, he pointed over at Rand Paul and said, look, I haven't made fun of his looks, and believe me, there's plenty of material right there.
And for the audience, that was true. But see, Trump was smart. He was deflecting off the fact that he called him a short guy who couldn't even reach the podium there. He's like, I haven't made fun of his looks. But you're right. So the problem here, I mean, there's no problem, but my take on what you said, G, is that that's who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. That's who Newsom is. With Newsom, he's been around long enough, he can get away with it because he's kind of always been like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't known much outside of MAGA circles. Trump has been like that since day one. See, Trump is an outlier. He can be bombastic, he can be mean, and people will forgive him, especially with the results. But what's Marjorie Taylor Greene accomplished? And when push comes to shove, Newsom's going to fall flat on his face, because once we start looking at what he's done in California, his whole campaign is going to fall apart. But Trump is unique. So I get what you're saying, but I'll defend Marjorie Taylor Greene. And like you, Annette, I like a lot of what she does, but I'm not impressed by her because she comes across as not dumb, but dense. A bunch of missteps, aligning herself with Massey and publicly bragging about this and publicly say, I'm going to do what I want, this or that. You're taunting Trump. And I don't know if I think she's too dense to realize that. Eventually, Trump said no mas. Now, that said, she hasn't lost her reelection. She still has strong support. But her whole support, her biggest base in her district was and is MAGA. Now it boils down to what the people think of her. So for the first time in her political career, so she's been, 3 cycles now, maybe? 2 or 3, at least 3 cycles, I want to say. Now she's got to stand on her own 2 feet. And heaven help her if Trump finds a candidate to run against her, because that's a MAGA district.
Go back to kissing the ring quick.
Yeah, Massey, I thought, would easily win, but he's running into the Justin Amash. Trump's acolytes are making sure Massey's district understands what he's done for them. Nothing. So any final comments here real quick on MTG? And I want to get quick comments on Cheney.
No, I mean, we know of a former public official here in San Diego, and he thought he could just tweet whatever because Trump tweets whatever. You're right. Trump is a unique person. He's been in the public eye for 50 years. He can get away with that. But you're some nobody. You're not going to get away with acting like Trump. You've got to be a lot more like Ronald Reagan if you want to get some traction.
Right. Yeah. And my honor, Trump will say, I built her. I will break her.
You're not on the imitation circuit either.
I know, but I'm my biggest fan. So as long as I have one fan, me, I'm good to go. All right. Dick Cheney passed away. Rest in peace. A lot of people have been talking about his past, how vile, how evil, et cetera, et cetera. He's got family. He's mourning. I don't want to get into any of that. I was a big Dick Cheney fan, and then I realized he has caused a lot of death, a lot of grief in the name of the almighty dollar. That seems to run along the Cheneys. It's who and what they are. And I'm basing that on their track record. Now, he passed away. He's getting his accolades, being buried. All the establishment went. Now, the Clintons and the Obamas didn't go. I think Bill saw the guest list. Man, there ain't no hot chicks here. I'm out. But the Clintons and Obama, but every other establishment figure literally was there, and those establishment figure, well, I'll find it and say here before G answers. But the point is, Trump and JD Vance were not invited. When you hear that or see that, what goes through your mind here, Annette?
Why? I don't understand that at all. That seems so disrespectful to me. He's the president. That's the president and the vice president of the United States. Actually, I thought you were going to ask me a different question. I was going to say something else about Cheney, but when you started with that, I'm just, why? What do you make?
Say it. Speak your mind. This is fired up.
No. I was going to say, out of the blue, because I know he died on November 3rd. I was thinking about Dick Cheney today, and I was thinking about, what I know of his life and some of his maybe missteps and how the things that you do. I mean, he was a powerful man.
Yes.
I heard he was a great fly fisherman. I heard that he could, but also, and then you're gone. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you have to face, I believe, God with everything you've done, good and bad. And that must be for someone like him, who has a long list probably of both. Do you know what I mean? Because of his positions and because people could have died at his behest. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I just was thinking of the gravity of that. And just when you die, you know what I mean? And that's it. You're done now.
You're right. You're right.
Make amends for it or change it. And how really important it is in a leadership position to think of other people and not just yourself. But I mean, that's all. I mean, he's faced his maker at this point, I think, probably. And I don't know. I mean, thank God for the mercy of God. Back to why Donald Trump and JD Vance, that is just so petty and ridiculous to me that I just don't even know what to think of it at all. It's so disrespectful.
Gotcha. G, Joe Biden, Joe Biden going to anything nowadays. Bush, McConnell, Pence, Fauci, Anthony Fauci, Lindsey Graham, Adam Schiff, Marvel, and Rachel Maddow. A lot of these people called him racist, Hitler, Rachel Maddow, called him all kinds of names. Yet they're all there, which just tells me it's just part of the establishment
game.
Your thoughts?
No, I mean, I watched Return of the Jedi. A lot of good people were at Darth Vader's funeral, but that's because in the end he turned.
Yes.
But I would imagine that's why. I mean, first of all, my condolences to the Cheney family, but I would imagine that's why, like someone like Rachel Maddow being excited that Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris, and she's going, "Wow, he's on our side now, right?" So she goes to the funeral and says, "Okay, well, Anakin Skywalker's back and Darth Vader's gone." I mean, I don't know what's going through their minds, but for Liz, I believe Liz Cheney made the invite list. But for her to invite Rachel Maddow, James Carville, I mean, these guys are saying Dick Cheney was Darth Vader, right? So here's the other part of it. If you look back at the last, I don't know, presidents since Ronald Reagan, each of them, I think with the Bushes accepted, went campaigning and went to bat for future candidates, right? Now, Bill Clinton and Gore, he didn't really go there, but Bill Clinton came back on the trail for his wife, and Obama came on the trail for Biden and Kamala Harris and whatnot. But Bush Jr. and Dick Cheney were not asked to come because I think they wore out their welcome, right? And they kind of said, well, you're more of a liability than an asset. So while I was a Bush Cheney guy in 2000, 2004, they did not serve the Republican Party or the country very well, especially in the second term of 2004 through 2008. I will take them over Obama, one term of Obama, or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. What I'm saying is they were just, I mean, we haven't heard from Dick Cheney until he said, "Hey, I'm voting for Kamala, anybody but Trump." And it's like, wait, you're still alive? I mean, I think that was my shock. I'm like, wait, you're still alive? I mean, didn't you get thrown in jail for shooting your friend in the face? Oh, no, he didn't. It's like that. That's the last thing I remember hearing of Dick Cheney. He shot his friend in the face in 2000, and then that's it. We haven't heard from him since. So until he said, "Hey, I'm voting for Kamala." So this is, like you said, it's the lineup of neocons. It's the one-party system, Democrat, Republican, and Trump has really broken that. And look, I'm not a Trump is perfect type of guy. I'm a free market conservative and a non-interventionist. And let's just focus in at at home more than going out there, which is what Trump does roughly. So, so
No,
that's my
I
thought.
get it. I get it. And Annette, that kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying. Gee, I've forgotten all about him. Eventually, you fade away and get forgotten. And it's about your loved ones and what you've accomplished. A couple of things that I agree with. G neocons, Trump's broken him. They hate him with a passion. This is what politics have gone so petty. That's why I'm okay with Trump doing what he does, because it's the left and the neocons and the establishment that started this fight. Because they never thought Trump would get back in power, and now he is. But to answer your question about Liz Cheney, why she would invite him, maybe she had a man crush on Rachel. Who knows? If it's not Rachel, maybe it's Chris Hayes. It's easy to get those two mixed up. Yeah. So maybe that's what it was.
Mark Cuban as well.
Yeah. And then about power, let's never forget the greatest narcissist. One of the greatest narcissistic moments was like, yeah, I'm heading to hunt for the VP. 24 hours later, I found him. It's me. Yeah, remember, he was heading the hunt to find the VP.
Got that, actually.
All right. And there you have it, my friends. That's our show for tonight. I wanted to get heavy into Epstein, bring up a lot of examples. At the end of the day, I do believe the backlash is real. The backlash is going to be never ending because Epstein was actually a big Democrat donor. So what we have just seen is more than likely the tip of the iceberg. But let's not fool ourselves. It's an establishment crew that's still there. Will Lindsey Graham wind up somewhere? Mitch McConnell? John Boehner? That's where G comes in. Who? Huh? Yeah, he's been gone a while. Paul Ryan. I mean, who knows what names? But I guarantee you the names will be establishment. And what we have learned, Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump. He hated him with a passion. Why? Who knows? There's a few stories floating around. But this was an accidental, brilliant move by Trump to say, release all of the documents. And I think it will come back to help him, and it will finally make this go away. But will people be appeased? No. Are they appeased with the JFK conspiracy? No. Are they satisfied with the MLK answers and all that big dump? No. This will become a conspiracy, not just for us, but for future generations. And it'll become a Netflix docuseries too. Then there's Dick Cheney. Rest in peace, Dick. You got to meet your maker, and whatever befalls you, befalls you. And what was the other topic we talked about? Damn.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Baby girl, you look great because you a fit model. You a strong woman. But sometimes your ego and your head got so big it couldn't fit through the door. And now it's costing you. Will you be forced to pay the price? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. But what you better hope who doesn't have mixed feelings are your constituents, because they're the ones who are going to be pulling that lever this November. The question is, who will they pull it for? And with that, my friends, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank my panelists here, the beautiful Miss Annette Ross and the G-Man. I hope you enjoy the show. Make sure you like and share this podcast. Make sure you follow us on your platform, your favorite platform, YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, y Pandora, under the handle Grumblings Media, and bookmark grumblingsmedia.com. I am William del Pilar. For the crew here, stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving. There will not be a show next week. We will be on hiatus. And make sure you get your wish if you get that wishbone go your way.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.